Hello and welcome to another How to Code Well web chat. My name is Peter Fisher. Today we're going to talk about milestones. What is a milestone? What happens after a milestone? What makes up a milestone? And all of those kind of things. How do you measure milestones within your development journey, within your freelance career? So I was looking up the definition of milestones, and a milestone is basically a marker, right? So in the olden times they used to put these milestone markers down to work out the distance that you've traveled from one point to the next. You can also think of it like when you're doing a running race or a cycling race or just a race in general, where they put the markers out. They say there's like, you've ran for 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and so forth. So really a milestone is something that is set to distinguish the distance within a journey. And what I didn't realize was a milestone wasn't always a mile. It could have also distinguished a part of the mile. Essentially, it's like the journey, if you will. And if you were to think about a dot-to-dot puzzle, right, where you've got lots of these little dots and the first thing you do is try and connect all the lines, then that in a sense is kind of like milestones, because each milestone is a success, a portion of that journey to complete the bigger picture. And then once all the milestones are created and completed, then you have the final thing, the final product. So I kind of think about this in the business sense as a freelancer, as well as, in a development journey sense. What are the things that I need to achieve in order to learn a new language or a new design methodology? Maybe it's DDD, maybe it's BDD, maybe it's TDD, all of those kind of things. What makes those up, and what do I need to do in order to learn those kind of things, those skills? And more importantly, I suppose, is what happens when you've completed that milestone. Now, the biggest piece of advice I was given by another freelancer was when you're extremely busy, advertise. Because as a freelancer, your level of busyness goes up and down, right? So one month you could be increasingly busy, and then the next month hardly anything at all. So you want to make sure that when you're coming off of your busy period, that you have something that you can target in the next period. You've got some other milestone to achieve, another project to achieve, and so forth. But how do you measure that? How do you measure success? How do you measure going from one place to another? Well, some people might think, well, that is money, right? So the amount of figures that you've got in your account is a sign of success when you're a businessman. Now, I kind of disagree a little with that, because I'm more than happy to produce a piece of software, obviously be paid for it, but if it's supporting a cause, or if it's supporting, a charity, or if it's supporting, if it's making someone's lives better, it could be saving people's lives, if it's for the medical industry, so forth. That to me is a bigger success than the stuff I have in my account. And obviously you need the stuff in the account in order to, to live and so forth. And I'm certainly not whittling that down to saying that I'm only going to be going for the smallest amount. But I guess it's how you measure success. If you're a drugs company, for example, success is measured in not only the money that you raise, but also in the amount of people that you might save and help and support, getting the drugs to the people. If you're someone who is, a relief worker, that kind of thing, so it's how many people have you helped? How many people have you influenced? How many, all of those kind of things. Success isn't just money. Money is a part of that, but it isn't just that, When people are successful, often or not, the successful people can become the most oppressed. Which is a bit of a contradiction, you might think, because why is a successful person depressed? And that is because they've reached their milestones, they've reached their goals, they've achieved those things, but they don't have anything after that in which to achieve, right? So, for example, if you're a marathon runner, or if you're a triathlon athlete, if you're doing something crazy in terms of athletics, maybe you're trekking up a huge mountain like Everest or something, and you've trained and trained and trained and trained your whole life to get to this point, or a large portion of your life. You can't remember when you weren't training for this. And then you achieve that. And now you have to come back home and detrain your body to bring your body back down to its normal state. So you get told by your doctors and nurses that you need to reduce the amount of exercise to make your body recover. Now that is actually quite a depressing thing to do when you're an athlete, because you can't just go from the world's greatest or the best thing or the most highest achieved thing to then suddenly, you know, fade that out, and therefore you get depression because you don't have anything to move on to, right? Which is very important when you're deciding on your milestones, when you're saying, look, in order for this project or this achievement to be achieved, we have a series of milestones that we need to reach to get to that point. But what happens when that point is then finished? Well, for a freelancer, you have to ensure that you have other work that you can do after you finish this work. Obviously, there's going to be periods where you can't just work all the time, but still, you need to be aware that the rot can set in when you're not achieving stuff, right? Achieving things is quite an addictive thing, I find. You know, I like to achieve a goal. I like to set a goal. I like to create a things to do list and then mark those things off as they're done. I like to split the day up between morning, mid-morning, afternoon and evening, right? So what can I achieve in those kind of things? And my sort of rest gaps, if you will, are lunch and breaks and stuff like that. But I would like to achieve things by those times. So I kind of use those almost like little milestones. You know, what can I achieve by lunch? What can I achieve by, I don't know, my 2 o'clock coffee or my whatever, my 4 o'clock cup of tea, that kind of thing. So I actually use tea as markers. A reason, I suppose, as to why I'm talking about milestones is because my channel is moving into perhaps the 1,000 subscriber territory. So this is something that I never thought would happen, right? This is something that I never really, I've always wanted it to happen, and I'm really grateful that it is, and it's all your support. So I thank you ever so much for doing that. As we're talking now, I think it's teetering around 830, 840 subscribers, which is fantastic, right? I mean, I'm not going to put this out straight away, so it might be different. It might be less or it might be more. So is a subscriber count a milestone? And then should that mean that the next milestone is 2,000? And what is subscribers? Well, I guess a subscriber count is a measure of how many people actually wish to listen to myself and learn and go through. The thing is, the channel does all sorts of things. It's not just PHP, it's not just MySQL, it's not just Docker. It's a talk on web development, and so every Friday I have these little chats, these talks on web development. So I'm not going to please everybody, right? And I'm not wanting to please everybody, but at the same time I'm not being specific in certain little areas. So I know that in itself is a bit of a challenge. But for me, this is an outlet to my passion. So the subscriber count for me is something that, as long as it's going in the right direction, then I'm not overly, these big numbers are obviously huge, right? For me, hitting 1,000 is great. But as long as it doesn't go the other way, as long as it doesn't go to 500 or 300 or whatever, then, I'm obviously doing something right, I would hope. So, but the thing is, I can't marry that to success. Personally, I know a lot of people do. They go, oh, well, you've reached tens of thousands of subscribers and therefore you're successful. Personally, my success of YouTube, the very limited success that I've had, because my YouTube channel is just so small, is the comments that are being raised. So it's the questions that are being raised, the answers that I can actually provide, and the very small banter that we're currently sort of building up in the comments section. I quite like that because it's engaging. For me, it's talking to other programmers, other developers, other people on their development journey, if you will. So yes, the subscriber count is something that I'm keeping an eye on, but only in the terms that, you know, it's a measurement, if you will, of how many people are following this channel. Now, I would like to mark the milestone. I don't know how yet. I'm not sure. If you follow me on Twitter at PFWD, I did sort of mention maybe I should create a cake or something when you hit 1,000, but I'm certainly going to do a video around that. But for me, it's the comments, it's the talking to other developers. So that's my little thought on milestones and how we can use milestones, and what to be aware when you're using milestones. Make sure that you've got other projects, other plans after that. I'll be very interested to hear if what your milestones are, and also if you've got any recommendations of what I should do to mark the 1,000 subscribers that I'm hopefully going to achieve. I will say that I wanted to hit 1,000. I was kind of planning to hit 1,000 at the end of this year. So this is huge, right? For me, this, like I said, you can hit milestones at different times, right? Some milestones you can achieve quicker than others. So this is wonderful. For me, this is great. But it's the comments. It's the comments, the comments that are actually happening, people talking amongst other people now, which is great, which is lovely. It's a little mini community, if you will. Thank you all for watching. Thank you ever so much for subscribing. If you haven't done so already, I'll leave a link at the end of the video, but thanks ever so much for watching. Do subscribe to pick up the web chats and the tutorials that I do each week. Like the video if you've found this helpful, and do share it around if you think others will do so as well. Thanks again for watching. Cheers. Bye.